Tonight, we're not counting voices or chart positions, we're counting risk. 10 pop idols who stepped into the spotlight at the exact moment it could have swallowed them whole. At the height of fame, they broke the Galen contract, shattered the fantasy, and paid for truth with headlines, hate, and silence from the industry. This isn't gossip. It's the real price of visibility. Let's begin. 1. Sam Smith, the ballad prince who refused to stay palatable. Sam was introduced to the world as a clean suit and tie miracle, a voice that could make heartbreak sound expensive. And the industry loved that version because it fit the Galen contract. The unspoken deal every pop machine understands. Be the safe fantasy. Be the man women can project onto. Be the sadness they can buy on vinyl. Then, Sam came out. And suddenly, the story wasn't just great singer. It became, how dare you ruin the illusion? That's the part people forget. Coming out doesn't only change your personal life, it changes your market value in rooms you'll never see. Brand meetings, festival bookings, radio politics. The quiet math of will middle America still stream this? And if Sam had stayed in the respectable gay lane, smiling, grateful, small, maybe the backlash would have been softer. But Sam didn't do soft. Sam got louder, weirder, freer. And that's when the world turned their body into a battleground. Weight jokes, pronoun rage, too much outfits, moral panic every time Sam dared to perform desire instead of apology. The same people who screamed, "Be yourself," suddenly demanded a refund. Here's the cruel twist. The internet loves authenticity until it's uncomfortable, until it's visibly queer, until it refuses to flatter straight comfort. So Sam paid for freedom in the only currency pop culture accepts: humiliation, headlines, petitions, comment sections that treat a human being like a public trash can. But Sam kept walking on stage anyway, turning scrutiny into spectacle, shame into theater, and loneliness into an anthem people can't stop singing. Now ask yourself, did Sam invite the hate? Or did Sam simply stop performing for people who wanted a lie? And if a pop star can be punished this hard for telling the truth, what does that say about the rest of us? Was Sam brave? Or was the industry right to protect the fantasy? Should fans have to lose their crush to respect someone's reality? 2. Bain Just B, the K-pop idol who spoke one sentence that could end everything. In K-pop, the closet isn't a door. It's a contract. No dating, no scandals, no real self. Just the illusion of availability. Millions of fans buying the idea that the idol belongs to them. That's the economy. That's the machine. And if you break it, you don't just lose fans. You risk losing your entire career overnight. So when Bane stood on stage and said, in plain language, that he was proud to be part of the LGBTQ+ community as a gay person, it wasn't a moment. It was a detonation. Because K-pop doesn't reward honesty, it rewards control. Imagine what that sentence costs behind the curtain. Managers panicking, sponsors watching, executives calculating whether your truth is too expensive. And the fans. Some become shields, others become knives. The possessive ones don't just feel surprised, they feel betrayed. Because the fantasy they paid for just died in real time. And then comes the second danger, the cultural one. Conservative backlash, online harassment, the kind of hate that isn't opinions, but threats. The kind that teaches you to look over your shoulder, not because you're famous, because you're queer and visible. Bane did it anyway. This is what makes it terrifying. He didn't come out after a farewell tour. He didn't wait for legacy status. He did it while still inside the system that's famous for erasing people quietly. No press release, no soft wording, no "I'm just an ally," just truth. on a stage, under lights, when the world could screenshot it forever. So tell me, was this courage or career suicide? Should idols be allowed to be human? Or are they products the fandom owns? If you were a fan, would you stay? Or would you feel lied to? And if you say lied, ask yourself, why did you believe you were owed the truth? 3. Ricky Martin, the Latin lover who risked the crown to breathe. Ricky wasn't just famous. He was a global instruction manual for desire. The hair, the hips, the sweaty poster on bedroom walls. The industry didn't sell his music alone. They sold him as a heterosexual daydream. The ultimate Latin lover, engineered for a world that wanted machismo, not nuance. That's the gallant contract at its most brutal. Be the fantasy, or lose the empire. And for years, the pressure wasn't subtle. It was psychological warfare. Rumors stalking him like paparazzi. Interviews that tried to corner him into confessing for someone else's entertainment. Executives who treated sexuality like a brand defect. Something to conceal or you'll damage the market. So when Ricky finally came out, while still an A-list name, it wasn't a celebrity announcement. It was a man choosing oxygen over obedience. Because in Latin pop, the stakes weren't only career, they were cultural. Machismo isn't just an attitude there, it's a system. And systems punish men who refuse to perform the role. The backlash wasn't always loud. Sometimes it's quieter, colder, fewer doors opening, family-friendly invitations disappearing, sponsors hesitating, fans who once screamed your name suddenly acting like you ruined their childhood. The kind of rejection that smiles to your face and deletes you behind the scenes. But the story doesn't end with "he survived." Ricky rebuilt the fantasy into something real. Love without apology, fatherhood without hiding, a career that didn't need to flirt with denial to stay alive. He proved the industry's oldest threat was a lie, that honesty would end you. Still, should he have had to wait at all? Should any star have to earn the right to be truthful by becoming too big to cancel? Was Ricky's coming out late? Or was it exactly when he finally had enough power to survive the punishment? And if that's true, what does it say about the industry that made him wait? 4. Adam Lambert, the idol they wanted, until he looked too free. Adam didn't walk onto American Idol as just another contestant. He arrived like a secret the show wasn't ready to admit it wanted. The vocals, the control, the glam that felt dangerous in a country still pretending different was optional. And that's the trap of the Galen contract. They'll let you be exotic, as long as you stay safe. As long as you don't remind America that its heartthrobs are human beings with actual desire. Adam came out right as the spotlight was hottest, when your career is basically a newborn animal, fragile and surrounded by predators. One wrong headline, and the industry decides you're too risky. And suddenly, every door has a silent lock. Then came the backlash wave, not just criticism, moral panic. A performance, a kiss, a gesture, things rock stars have done forever, became proof that he was corrupting primetime television. Commentators acted like queerness was a contagious scandal. People didn't just dislike him, they wanted him punished for existing out loud. Imagine what that feels like. You sing your heart out, you win the crowd, and the next day, strangers are debating whether you deserve a career, whether you deserve air. And the cruelest part? He didn't even win the show. He lost the title, then had to carry the shame of being labeled the problem anyway. This is where Adam becomes a silent fame legend. He didn't shrink to survive. He didn't straighten up for sponsors. He took the hate, the whispers, the radio hesitation, the gatekeepers who pretended they were just thinking business. And he kept building. Because here's the truth. Adam didn't just come out, he exposed a system. A system that will crown you as long as you behave like their fantasy, then abandon you the second you stop apologizing. And still, he made it. He made it so loudly that one day he was standing where very few out queer men were ever allowed to stand, fronting Queen, singing in the shadow of Freddie Mercury, proving that the voice was never the risk. The truth was, so tell me, was Adam too much, or was the world too small? And if a kiss can trigger a national meltdown, what was the audience really afraid of? If you're feeling the story, hit subscribe, because Silent Fame is where we stop blaming the queer artist for the discomfort of the room. 5. Lil Nas X, the Dudrum 1 hit that came with a target on his back. Lil Nas X didn't come out during a quiet era. He came out at the peak, when his name was everywhere, when Old Town Road was still dominating the culture like a virus nobody could escape. That's what makes it historic. That's also what makes it brutal. Because in pop, success is supposed to buy you safety, but for a black gay boy who refused to code switch, success only made the target bigger. When he confirmed he was gay, the world didn't just react, it split. Some fans turned into protectors overnight. Others turned into executioners, unfollowing like it was a moral duty, calling him a betrayal, telling him he ruined the song, like his sexuality rewrote the music. Then came the real punishment, the attempt to erase him from legitimacy. Radio gatekeeping, industry hypocrisy. We support you in public. You're too controversial in private. Brands that love queer aesthetics in June, but hate queer truth when the comments turn ugly. And when Nas refused to be the respectable version of gay, the hate got uglier. He made desire visible. He made faith uncomfortable. He made conservatives furious. He became the villain in people's personal religion wars, like one pop star could be blamed for an entire culture losing control. Imagine the loneliness of that. You're young, you're famous, you're rich, yet you're reading death threats on a phone at 2 a.m. because you posted a joke. You're watching strangers debate whether you deserve protection or punishment because you dance too close to your own freedom. But here's what the system didn't predict. He didn't beg to be liked. He didn't edit himself into safe. He built a career on refusing to disappear. And every time he stayed standing, he taught millions of queer kids one lesson. You can be loud and still survive. Now, the question for the comments, was Lil Nas X brave? Or was he reckless? Should he have played it safer to keep the mainstream? Or is safe just another word for silence? If you want more stories where we expose the cost of visibility, subscribe and join this channel. We don't do sanitized pride here. We do the real price. 6. Christian Chávez, RBD, the teen idol who was forced to choose, lie or lose everything. Christian's fame wasn't adult fame. It was teen idol fame, the kind that's built on a fantasy so fragile it can shatter from a rumor. RBD wasn't just popular, it was a cultural storm. The faces on backpacks, the songs in every school hallway, the kind of stardom that makes your private life feel like public property. And then the photos hit. This wasn't a coming out designed by a PR team. It was exposure, the kind that turns your body into evidence and your life into a headline. One day, you're selling dreams. The next day, you're being treated like a scandal that could infect the brand. And in a machismo-heavy entertainment culture, the punishment isn't always a formal ban. It's worse. Social exile. The whispers. The jokes on TV. The concerned interviews that are really interrogations. The fans who suddenly decide you're not who they paid for. The industry men who act polite while quietly counting how much money your truth will cost them. Imagine being young, famous, and terrified, knowing that one denial could keep the machine running, but one truth could burn the whole thing down. And knowing that if the group collapses, you'll be blamed as the reason. That's the cruelty of the Galen contract. It turns honesty into sabotage, it turns a human being into a liability, and it teaches you to hate yourself for the crime of existing. Christian didn't just survive the moment, he carried it. Years of being the punchline, years of being the risk, years of having to prove he was still worthy of a stage. And then, years later, RBD comes back, stadiums fill up, and the same world that tried to shame him suddenly wants nostalgia, wants reunions, wants the magic again. Isn't that the sickest part? They tried to erase him, then cashed in on the memory. So ask yourself, did Christian deserve to be punished for being honest? Or did the audience deserve to lose the fantasy they demanded? If this hit you in the chest, subscribe. Because the next names on this list, the industry didn't just whisper about them, it tried to bury them. 7. George Michael. The pop king turned into a headline for existing. George wasn't just famous, he was the fantasy wham mania, then solo superstardom, then that rare level of pop power where your face becomes public property. Which is exactly why the industry wanted him inside the Galen contract. Stay desirable, stay safe, stay just ambiguous enough that everyone can project what they want. Then 1998 hit like an ambush. An arrest in Beverly Hills didn't just become news, it became a morality play. Overnight, the conversation stopped being about music and started being about whether he deserved a career at all. The fine and community service were one thing. The real punishment was cultural. Jokes, sneers, headlines that treated queerness like a scandal instead of a human life. And here's the part that separates George from most legends. He didn't beg. He didn't clean it up for approval. He flipped the humiliation into art. He answered with Outside on satirical, loud and fearless, turning the world's surveillance into a performance and refusing to let shame write his story. But don't romanticize it. That kind of defiance costs you in the invisible ways. Colder rooms, brand safety excuses, gatekeepers who start acting like you're too complicated for the clean pop narrative. You can be world famous and still feel yourself being edited out of acceptable history. So here's the comment fight. Was George reckless? Or was the world cruel for demanding silence from a superstar just to protect its fantasy? If you want more stories about the industry's quiet punishments, subscribe to Silent Fame. 8. Mark Feehily, Westlife, the boy band heartthrob, who risked the fantasy that paid him. Boy bands aren't built on music alone. They're built on ownership, posters, teen magazines, meet and greets, and the illusion that the idol is emotionally available. That's the Galen contract at its purest. Don't just sing love songs. Be the boyfriend the audience thinks they could have. Mark Feehily was living inside that machine at full volume. Westlife weren't popular, they were a global brand. Which is why his decision mattered. He didn't come out as an indie artist with nothing to lose. He came out as a core piece of a product that depended on fantasy. In 2005, Mark publicly revealed he was gay after years of keeping his private life locked down. Because in that era, openly gay still came with a price tag, especially for a boy band. And the fear wasn't only hate, it was blame. Because if fans turned cold, the narrative wouldn't accuse the system. It would accuse him like honesty is sabotage. That's the cruelty of pop economics. It turns truth into risk. It makes a human being feel like a liability on a spreadsheet, and it pressures you to protect strangers' fantasies more than your own life. Mark did it anyway. Quietly, plainly, without a stunt. Just a man, choosing air over performance. So let's be honest in the comments. Do fans have the right to feel lied to, or were they buying a lie the industry sold them? If this is your kind of truth, subscribe. We're not done. 9. Will Young, the Pop Idol winner who refused to pretend for the prize. Winning Pop Idol wasn't just a trophy. It was a contract written in screams, magazine covers, and a million girlfriends fans invented for you. In 2002, Will Young stepped into that spotlight and felt the rule instantly. Be every girl's dream. Smile, dodge the questions, and let the fantasy do the selling. Then he did what pop factories fear most. He told the truth, early. Not years later, not after the heat cooled. While the cameras were still warm and the industry still had him welded to the machine. And when you come out at the height of fresh fame, the punishment isn't always one big explosion. It's a slow, icy drip. Tabloids sniffing for angles, gatekeepers quietly deciding what's safe, interviewers smiling while trying to corner you into a soundbite. Some fans didn't just feel surprised, they felt robbed. Because the gallant contract trains audiences to believe they own you, your story, your availability, your future. So Will became a test case. Could an openly gay winner stay mainstream? Or would the industry erase him by simply looking away? But he kept showing up, kept singing, kept choosing life over performance when silence would have been easier and playing straight would have been profitable. That's why Will belongs in this countdown. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's walking back onto the stage after the world tells you your truth is bad for business. Sometimes it's refusing to shrink so other people can stay comfortable. Drop it in the comments. If Will had stayed silent, would you have called it privacy? Or would it have just been fear with better PR? And if this kind of story matters to you, subscribe. We tell the truth behind the spotlight. 10. Stephen Gately, the boy's own angel who turned a tabloid knife into a doorway. In the late 90s, a boy band wasn't a band. It was a fantasy assembly line. Boyzone sold romance the way supermarkets sell sugar. Everywhere, irresistible, and designed to keep you wanting more. Stephen Gately's face was part of that machine. Sweet, soft, safe. And that's exactly why the system needed him quiet. Then the closet broke in public. Stephen didn't get the luxury of a perfectly timed confession. He was pushed into the headline blender, where truth becomes scandal, and a young man becomes a warning label for every other idol. Don't do this. The noise wasn't just gossip, it was shame weaponized. Jokes, slurs, think of the girls, outrage, and that cold executive fear that honesty could damage the brand. And here's the part people underestimate. Surviving that takes more strength than any high note. Because you're not just fighting hate. You're fighting the feeling that you ruined something when all you did was exist. But Stephen stood there anyway. Open, visible, unedited. While the world tried to reduce him to one word, and that visibility mattered. Every time an idol survives being honest, the Galen contract weakens. Every time a heartthrob says, "I'm still here," a kid watching at home learns a new possibility. Maybe you don't have to disappear to be loved. So we end today's episode with this. The point isn't that these men were fearless, it's that they were human, scared, judged, and still moving forward. If you've ever been told to stay small to stay safe, hit subscribe. And comment which story hit you hardest and why. Your words might be the lifeline someone else is looking for. So ask yourself, did they ruin the fantasy? Or did the fantasy ruin them first? These 10 men didn't come out when it was safe. They came out when it was expensive. If any story hit you, drop a comment. Who paid the highest price, and was it worth it? And if you want more episodes that expose the machinery behind fame, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.